Hi friends, I'm doing two new things today. So one, I just got this new territorial deck. I kept seeing it online, I thought it was so cute. And then I saw they had a mini version. And I was like, oh, I love that. Let's see if I get my head out of frame. I was like, oh, I love that. I love the tiny cards because I don't show my work desk very much because it's very small. And it's also like, this is literally like not only where I do tarot readings because it's the most comfortable place for me to do it, but also where I just do my work in general. So the space is not that big. It's about as big as to fit my laptop. So trying to do a more complicated spread on such a small surface is really difficult. And oftentimes, sometimes I'll be doing the reading like on my laptop. That's why I don't really show it. I also don't have mechanisms to show you that. I feel like the best I can do is set the camera up right here so it's a good angle, use cinematic view, make sure that I look presentable, and that's the most I can do for right now, you know? But that's the first thing is this new deck of cards. They're tiny, they're easy to shuffle. I like them already. They also have little keywords because I'm refreshing myself with tarot. I was doing tarot and oracle readings and I opened up my practice a few years ago and it was my whole life, honestly. It was tarot and astrology and numerology. I was extremely into it. I was constantly studying, constantly sharing what I learned. If you go look at my old videos, you'll see that I was very intuitive with everything that was going on. And it was because it was sort of it was something that started to happen because I was going through a lot personally. And tarot and spirit was just there for me in that way. And it really spoke to me and I really just felt like connected to that. And then I decided to pursue a different dream of mine and get my master's degree in creative writing. And that started taking up a lot of time. And then I was like, I was trying to get a practical job. So I quit putting energy into my spiritual practice because it just didn't feel practical anymore. And I was worried that I was shooting myself in the foot by not having a practical corporate job. So I went back to searching for corporate jobs, even though I had already had years of rejections. And I thought maybe things would be different because I have a master's degree now. I stopped my practice I wasn't as involved around the time that I was finishing my degree. And then I full on stopped afterwards because I was trying to find work and I was struggling to find work. And it was difficult for me to justify creating like content for free to try to get people into wanting to have readings with me. But over the last year, it's still been difficult. In fact, it's been worse in the writing industry because of AI and things like that. So it's been extremely difficult. I almost had a job offer a few times and then was told that they were told by the company that they were going to replace my job with AI. And no matter how many places have regretted that decision, it didn't make a difference. It was still just like an issue within the field. I'm very lucky and fortunate that my husband has a job that's not reliant on corporations. He has a trade. He's a barber. And I'm very fortunate. I'm glad that I pushed him to do it too. You know what I mean? I really wanted to support him because he had been supporting me in my endeavors for so long. So I was like, you go to school. It's only for like this short period of time. I'll just cover most of the bills. And that's the way that we did it. And so now we're back around to this area where I'm once again a student in my life. And but things are a little different. I think I have a clearer head this time about where I want things to go because I'm no longer wanting to be reliant on trying to find a suitable job or a corporate job. It just never seems to work. So this is me kind of taking back control of that. But anyways, all of that is to say that not only am I doing this new deck that I love because it's super tiny and it has all the keywords and things that'll kind of help me get through the reading if I stumble, if I see something and I don't 100% recognize it because it's been a minute. Because it takes a while. Learning tarot and astrology are both languages. It takes time. You have to submerge yourself into it. So it's like if I was like learning Spanish for a long time and then I suddenly decided that like it's too much for me to try to learn Spanish, so I'm going to just stop. That's basically what I did. I was like it's too much for me right now. I'm just going to focus on surviving, which I had a lot of medical issues. I was trying to get through school. I was trying to find work, so many things, right? And so, oh, my dog, she's sleeping. She might start growling. But I was having all these issues, right? And so I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, that's fine. So what I'm also doing, besides the new cards, is I'm also going to be trying to get back into the Celtic Cross layout. I haven't done it in a long time. I used to do it for like big issues happening in my life, and I felt like it brought a lot of insight. So I wanted to try it out because I want to practice it, and once I feel like I've got it down, like really intuitively and really well, I'd like to offer it as a service to people. That's what I was saying. Astrology and tarot are languages. And so whenever you just stop engaging in the language, you start to lose it. You're no longer fluent, right? And I can feel that in so many ways. Like I used to always know what was happening astrologically and be able to explain it to people. And there was a while where I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'll tell you a big thing that did happen that was part of all of this of me stopping. I went into my Saturn return. And the Saturn return is always a really difficult time in people's lives. And that's what I was going through. So I'm going to halfway blame that. I'm going to blame just issues in general. I'm going to blame the state of the world. I'm going to blame myself for losing focus, all of those things. So yeah, I want to try out the Celtic Cross, and I thought that I would just share that moment with you guys, and we can all get a reading out of it. I'm going to title this video after we do the Celtic Cross because I really just want to do a general reading. And so whatever themes come out that seem to be really prevalent in this reading, then I'm going to title it with that. So, but let's just be open to what's going to happen. Also, let me take a sip of water real quick. Okay. We have our cards here. The territorial, they're so cute. They literally came in the mail today. What I always do whenever I start is I shuffle 3 times. Just as a way to kind of like set the energy. I should do things without noise or with very calming music, but I'm gonna be honest, I usually just keep on whatever it was that was entertaining me, and just kind of like do both. I think that's the part of me that has trouble focusing, but we're just gonna get some like just general energy here and see like what comes out. For our first spot, we have what's going on presently, and I have 4 of Wands. So there's some celebratory things going on here. Yeah, harmony, relaxation, celebration, home, community. So I feel like for a lot of people, that's where you're at currently. Like there's some sort of harmony in your life, and maybe you are just finding reprieve with other people. I think despite a lot of the things that are going on, there's also like some good energy out there too. I messaged one of my good friends last night, and I was like, honestly, like, I watch the news a lot with everything that's going on, but the news, it's sure you see horrible things happening. That's just a rule of life, right? There's always sadness. There's always suffering around the world. Sometimes it's us, sometimes it's other people, but it's constantly always happening. Sometimes it's you, sometimes it's your neighbor, you know? And so, like that is just guaranteed, just granted in life. But whenever I was looking at, but sometimes the news, you get into good news. And so before I was going to bed, I was like, the good news keeps me going. Honestly, the good news feels just as good as like watching a cartoon or something like that. Like, it's just really nice to see whenever positive things are happening in the world, because bad things are a guarantee. So whenever we have something good, it's like, yay, let's do that. I'll also say too, that something I've learned in life, you know, whenever it comes to happiness and suffering, is that a lot of people don't sit in their happiness. They get really distracted by the idea that there could be eventually something suffering that will happen to them. So they don't sit in their happiness. They're usually really quick to be like, oh, something bad's going to happen. And it's like, that's a guarantee. Bad things are going to happen. 100%. There's absolutely no point in your entire life where you're just going to be happy and everything's great. That's not part of the human condition. So I think that's an important thing for people to remember. I have the challenge here is King of Swords. Whenever I'm connecting the information in my head, I think king as in like the very top of something, you know, just based on our patriarchal society, right? So the king is at the very top, but sometimes it can be in like masculine energy, because I do think of the queen as being like on the equal playing field, but hers is, you know, of course, the feminine energy. And so what I have with the King of Swords, when I think of swords, I think of intellect and knowledge and things like that, communication. So what I get the challenge might be is when it comes to communicating with others, not being sure exactly of what they're saying. I have mental clarity here on the card. Authority, intellect, discipline, truth. So I think that's the challenge that a lot of people are dealing with, is people who don't know what the heck they're talking about, just going out there and talking about things and not even considering that what they're saying is inaccurate or what they're saying is harmful to anybody. They're just going out and they're just talking. And they're acting as if they're experts on things that they don't know about. So I feel like this is a good reminder to go and look at the source and look anything up, anything anybody says that doesn't sound right to you. I mean, even if things sound right, just go get a double source on something so that you would actually know what you're talking about. And that's like going to be a challenge for a lot of people. Let's look in the recent past here. I have Two of Swords reversed. Confusion, lesser of two evils, information overload. The information overload, I feel that what I was talking about with watching the news, I'm like intense about the news now. I watch it literally all day. I used to read so many books. I used to read at least like on my like ebooks, I would read at least 2 a week. And then I would listen to at least 2 or 3 books a week. This was in 2023. I was just very into reading and I had the time. I used to work a delivery job, so I would just be driving around for hours listening to audiobooks, and that's how I got through them. And then on my off time, whenever my husband was busy with school or whatever, or work or whatever he was doing, because when he first became a barber, he would work really late nights. And I would read while he was gone because I'm an introverted person. I only like to see my friends like maybe 2 times a month or something. Like I don't really like being around people too much. Not because I don't like them, but because it's just an energy drain for me. So I usually like to focus my energy on reading and writing or doing hobbies or things like that. I don't even really watch TV. Sometimes I think TV is an energy sucker for me. I don't feel that way for other people. I'm like, do what you want to do, like have fun. You know, I love extroverted people. They're the ones that get me out of the house. But as for me, of like what drains my energy, those things are usually draining my energy. I really like it to be like quiet and introspective, and you know, and my dog loves it the same way too. I always say that she's me in dog form. So that's the way we like it, is quiet. Sometimes it even bothers her when I start doing these videos, because I'll just start talking out of nowhere and she's like, she's like, I was enjoying the quiet and now I have to listen to you talk. Okay, so whenever we're looking in the recent past, the information overload. So there's so much news going on. There's so much information just pouring in, and people are really confused about what to think. And a lot of times that's like the point, right? Is to get people confused and to get people not knowing what's going on. That's definitely like, sorry, my nose is itchy. That's definitely like the goal, the plan is to just like confuse people. That's why I say go look at another source. Go compare sources to different things, and definitely find people that you trust, that you like to hear information from them. I also have lesser of two evils here. So I think also in the recent past, a lot of people had decided to vote a certain way because they believed it was the lesser of two evils. I think a lot of different things came together to make that happen. You know, there's a lot of like explainable things. There's a lot of things that are just like, hey, this is like just history. You know what I mean? Like there's just horrific people that exist, and they continue to maintain the status quo, even if it hurts them, because they want to see other people harmed. 100% that exists. But I also think that there was a very good campaign to make people feel powerless and to make people feel like they don't have a say. They've done this in other elections, and it continuously works. It makes people feel powerless, and it makes people feel like if they make any decision at all, it's going to be the wrong decision. And so a lot of people really sat with themselves in their heart, and they really believed that to make this decision was to fight against the status quo. And so they made the decision of that reason. And I'm talking about really misinformed people, because there are people that were immigrants here in this country who don't know much. They didn't even know who he was, really. But they saw him on the news and he was talking about like, hey, groceries are expensive. Hey, this, hey, that. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, that's so true. You know, and a lot of immigrants too, they hear like, oh, there's all this like, all these criminals coming in and stuff, and they're having a hard time getting their like status, their citizenship status. And so they're thinking, oh my gosh, the system is getting totally plugged up because of all these criminals coming over, and like they don't have time to work on my case because they're too busy catching criminals. You know, this is like the things that people believe because this is what's being shown to them, that too much information and confusion, you know? And so that's like kind of what we were dealing with in the recent past. And it's also like on an individual level too. Like it starts to become like what's real, what's not real. There's a lot of confusion. And if you don't have time like me to be super into the news, then you might not really know what's going on. And you're kind of relying on people to tell you what exactly is happening. Let's look into the future a little bit here. Oh. Some cards fell out. this one, usually I love whenever cards pop out for me, but if I'm shuffling in real time, sometimes they could take a long time. So I'll just kind of pick the ones that stand out to me. So I have 2 of Pentacles here. 2 usually means duality, right? 2 different options. And then with Pentacles, we're thinking material gains. This card says priorities, time management, adapting to change. So in the future, this is kind of what we're going to be dealing with, is more of like how to, adapting to change is a big one for me. And then also time management. So how do you prioritize your life whenever things are so uncertain? And I think that's kind of like a big part of what we have going on right now. Definitely. And so let's look at the conscious. What are we consciously working towards? What's something that, where's a place that our energy is right now? We've talked about our central issue, which was the 4 of Wands, or where we are right now, which is celebrating with each other. And then dealing with sort of the misinformation we're getting around here. So consciousness, I have Knight of Wands. Knight to me usually is like some sort of student. Wands is passion. So passion, energy, adventure, impulsiveness, and action. So I think this is what a lot of people are consciously searching for. And you could definitely see that whenever you look online. Everybody's like, do something, let's do something. So there's definitely like this push to have some sort of like radical change or radical reaction. If we look at our subconscious here, we get the full reversed. And so this one's gonna hurt. The subconscious, naivety, lack of direction, chaos, recklessness, and stupidity. So that's kind of what we're dealing with on like below the surface. So we really want to do something, but a lot of people don't know what we're supposed to do. And I think we're just dealing with that in general. There's a lot of like disorganization. I was watching a video of Bernie and AOC, and they were out there at a rally, and you hear somebody on whenever Bernie's talking go, "What are you gonna do about it?" And then someone was like, "What are you talking about? He is doing something about it. We're all here doing something." And I see that a lot online. I see a lot of people that are like, we need to do something. Why is nobody doing anything? And they're ignoring the people that are doing something, people who are risking their lives every day, receiving death threats for fighting for our democracy, right? So I think a lot of people in general are naive about what they believe is supposed to happen. I think also a lot of people like lack the general knowledge about it as well. I get frustrated talking to people because, you know, I'll talk to somebody about like, hey, this thing is going on, you know, like, and then here would be the steps after I've listened to professionals after, you know what I mean? Like, here's like the steps of what's going on after that. And then I just am met with someone who's just like being totally negative about it. You know what I mean? Or someone who's just like totally nihilist. One of my friends told me that nihilism is the very last stage of capitalism because people get so worn down by life that they just believe that there is no future. And then also talking to people who don't believe there's any other way for systems to work. They're just like, no, it's just not going to happen. It can't happen that way. And I'm not talking about people who want to maintain the status quo. I'm talking about people who just like have completely given up. And it's just like, there's systems in place already, like not a whole bunch or anything, but like if you live in a community where people are helping each other, you see it. I talked about this in a video the other day about, you know, most people don't go check out food banks or like the local food drive. A lot of people just like don't even participate in it at all. So how can you say that there's like no community, but you're not making any sort of effort? You're being extremely naive about what you think the future looks like, right? And so it's time to educate yourself a little bit more. Maybe like go out there and talk to people, especially if you're screaming for somebody to do something, you do something, you know, like I understand that times are hard. I get it. I just talked about at the beginning of the video about my issues of like finding work and doing all these things. And that's kind of what led me back here to my spiritual practice. And so it's really important for you to kind of utilize your time. Your time is all you have, really, right? We're in this like time period where money is not even being spread around, and there's no stimulation of the economy right now in the US at least. I can't speak worldwide, but in the US at least, I know there is global issues though, for sure. But whenever like money isn't even something that's being circulated, all we really have is our time. So like, what can you do that's beneficial and helpful? How can you show up and do this Knight of Wands energy that you want to represent you, right? So what's our advice? I'm giving advice, but What is the advice from Spirit that is not just coming to me in messages? Oh, I have 4 cards pop out here. So let's just say these are the next 4 cards we need to look at here. We have advice, 7 of Cups reversed. So lack of purpose, confusion, overwhelmed by choice. So I was just saying, do something, right? We want people to do things, so we need to do things. And so this advice is reminding you to figure out what your purpose is. Stop being so like roadblocked about like what it is that you need to do. Just go do the first thing, you know? I've been kind of like, you know, having my own paralysis as well. So I was just thinking about that because it's like, I want to go to town halls. I want to go to school board meetings and I put them in my calendar, but then whenever they alert me, I'm already doing something else because, you know, a lot of them are after work and my brain stops working at 6 p.m. As soon as the sun starts going down, I cannot function anymore. So what I usually do is I just make dinner and then that's it. I'm done for the day. I can't think about anything else. I might play a game. I might read, whatever. I'm just watch the news and then I'm going to like go to sleep. So, but what I have been doing is I have been attending online meetings because whenever I do get an alert for that, if I'm cooking or like whatever, I can still at least pop it on. I can make little notes while I'm listening and I can volunteer in my ways where I can use my time, right? So definitely like try not to get so wrapped up in like hardcore committing to things, like literally just like show up, you know, show up in the ways that you can. And then, so we have external influences here. Once again, lack of clarity. This is the sun reversed. Lack of clarity, sadness, depression, negativity. Because when I think of the sun reversed, I definitely like think of depression and like not feeling like there's any hope for the future. And so I feel like that's what a lot of the external challenges here is for people. I want to just give you a reminder that throughout humanity, people have always talked about the end of the world. That's always been a topic of discussion. And it's something that people kind of like almost like look forward to, like every 10 to 20 years, there's this like big moment of like, this is the end of the world. Like humanity repeatedly does this. And so this is your reminder that to have hope for the future is to have hope for humanity, that we're going to learn. What we're seeing right now is a huge, huge regression, but it's a reaction to progress. It's like, oh no, like we're losing the status quo. We need to do whatever it takes to protect it, even though historically we repeatedly have lost this battle. But we're going to do it again because we're a fresh audience. We're a fresh new group of people who are refusing to learn from history, right? So we're just going to keep having the same thing happen over and over again until we completely dismantle the generational wealth that seems to continue to run the globe, right? I was talking about earlier, not money is not king, right? Although like that's the way our society operates. I'm not saying it's not, but I'm saying like for you, yourself and your values, don't limit and restrict yourself because you have this idea that because you have no money, there's no purpose for you, that you have no place in society, that you can't be a good part of the community. That's literally just not true. And there's so many small ways that we can do it. You know what I mean? Even just like, organizing a clothes swap with your friends. It's like everybody's broke. People want different clothes. Let's do a clothes swap and let's help each other. You know what I mean? There's so many like different ways that you can like help in your community that isn't just like money, you know? I broke down the other day with a friend who was saying, talking about how things can't happen without a community. And I was talking about like, well, there are like community gardens and things. And she's like, yeah, but that costs money. And then I laid out a plan for her of how it can happen without like any money right now. It might involve people putting resources together, resources they already have, but there are going to be people around you that have resources. So you have to be resourceful. And I think a lot of people who have lived in poverty most of their life understand that aspect of life of being resourceful. We will do whatever it takes to survive. And if you've lived in poverty, you know that community is the way to do that, right? Hopes or fears. I have 7 of Wands reversed. Exhaustion, overwhelm, lack of confidence. When I think of 7 of Wands, I think of doing what you have done and defending it. Usually when I think of 7 of Wands, I think of like boundaries or like self-worth. Like you've worked so hard to get to this point in your life and you don't want anybody to take it away from you. But it being reversed gives me the idea that a lot of our fears right now is that what we've built will be taken away. And I think that's a very valid fear. I've been talking about it on my channel for a few weeks now about how, you know, I'm going to speak specifically about women's rights, but we know that this also correlates with racial, LGBTQ, all of those things, right? But the reason I've been speaking specifically about women's rights is because this sort of push to make us second-class citizens is one that can go beyond race. You know, a lot of races feel the same way. And not going to say a lot of women don't stand up for other races, because there are some like that, for sure. But thinking about how much women have fought for decades and centuries to crawl, to get to the freedoms that a lot of us have right now. And this isn't even globally either. It's not even like globally women are doing great. It's like in very small pockets of the world, women are doing better. And it's only been for about a generation or so. You know, as animals have gotten more rights than children or women or people who were non-white, right? And then we started to see more rights for people. And women and children being last on that list, right? Because they're considered ownership and property for other people. And that's something that a lot of different people can subscribe to. So whenever we've only had about a generation of people, of women who are able to make the decisions they've made to have their own autonomy and to not feel like they have to marry somebody who will hurt and abuse them in order to have security. I'm married because my husband is a great person. He's sweet. He loves that I'm opinionated. You know what I mean? Like, he likes my opinions. He likes to hear me talk. He thinks I'm smart. He wanted me to go to school. He likes that I vote. You know, all of those things that a lot of these other men are trying to force out of women, you know, and take away their rights so that they have no other choice. It's like you have to be with a man because if you weren't, then you would have no survival. And so I think that a lot of people, whatever your specific association was, I was specifically talking about women, but this can apply to a lot of different areas that are being targeted right now. And I think they're all valid. And I think they all have their fair share and equality in what's going on. And so there's definitely this like fear that it's going to be taken away, and people are exhausted. They're tired of fighting for it. You know, you see it whenever you go online and people are like, hey, people who have been oppressed for the entire time the United States has been a country, speak up for us, do something for us. It's like, we're tired. You know what I mean? People are tired and they don't want to continue to put themselves on the line for people who are going to vote against them and vote against their rights to exist. You know, their rights to hold a job, to have a home, all of those things. So there's definitely that fear here. And I think that that's a big part of the challenge of dealing with like a lot of people in authority who don't know what they're talking about, right? Like, we know because we've seen it, we've experienced it, we know it's real, but there are a lot of people who don't. And so they're out there speaking as if they're an authority. They're out there in positions of power doing things and they don't know what they're talking about. And so our fear is that these people are going to take away our basic rights. And so that's like a big issue. And so our outcome here, I have 3 of Wands reversed. Obstacles, lack of foresight, and unexpected delays. That's our outcome. I think we should change that outcome, right? I think that we should work to change that. Because not everything in a reading is set in stone. But let's just talk about that for a minute, right? The outcome being that we're going to have multiple obstacles. We're going to lack the foresight with what to do. And there's going to be unexpected delays. That kind of coincides with the subconscious, right? About being naive. And the advice here is like, try to like narrow your focus. Not everybody can be everything, right? Some people have specific like good skills. And so what you need to do is figure out like what your skill set is. And it's okay to change it. Like, try something out. And if you don't like it, then you know what I mean? Something I've been personally doing as well to kind of like try to find a community is because like, I've seen like this pushback from like actually good Christian people who are not indoctrinized and who are not using the word of God and the word of Jesus to cause harm. I'm kind of like leaning more towards like talking to those people a little bit more, because there's still a community base within that system. And these are people who are speaking up. Like, these are people who are like, this is wrong. This is not what Jesus stood for. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. Like, I'm really sussing people out because I have my own religious traumas with religious extremism. And so, in general, it's difficult to find a community around you. And so that's been kind of like a way where I'm like, I'm going to explore that and try to join this community a little bit more. Obviously, you can join communities by talking to people about like hobbies. Like I said, you can go to the school board, the town hall. You can join your local political party. But if you're not a political person and you just want to be a part of the community, then you can find out where you can do that. You know what I mean? And start figuring out like where exactly you can be, and you can change things. You can have long-term goals. It doesn't have to be like, what can I do now to change the world? Like, you don't have to be the star. You don't have to be the star activist, you know? And wanting to be the star and wanting everything to work out in some specific way is where that naivety comes from, that lack of direction and the chaos that can come with that, right? One of the things they had here too is recklessness. I don't think I had really internalized that earlier, but the recklessness of this wanting to push forward but not having an actual direction of where to go. So yeah, so let's work to kind of like shift that outcome to being a better outcome for all of us, right? And work to learn more. That's gonna be a big thing too. Learn history. Get knowledgeable about things so you can share that information with other people. That's a very small thing that you can do. That takes up your time. One of the most valuable resources we all individually have. Even that is privileged, right? I'm even correcting myself with that. Not everybody has the time, and not everybody has the energy because they're too busy fighting for basic survival. So if you do have the time and energy, you're privileged in that way, and use it to become knowledgeable and to share your knowledge with other people, and to stay aware and to stay informed so that you can share that information with people that you interact with. And then those people who might not have the time to do what you're doing, those people maybe spend more time with other people. I mean, me and my husband are kind of like this. I like go and I like analyze things, and we talk about things, and I like inform him about stuff that he doesn't have the time to learn about. He's at work cutting people all day, but he does talk to people all day long. So what he does is he takes a lot of the stuff we've talked about, and whenever he's confronted with people out in the wild who are misinformed, he attempts to inform them. You know what I mean? It's a very small, like different thing, but those are both like ways that we're kind of like interacting together and using our skills, because he's an extroverted person. I already said earlier in the video that I'm an introvert. I only want to see my bestest friends like 2 times a month, maybe. So to blend those like different energies and those different skills that we both have in order to spread information and continue to spread knowledge to people, and then continue to empower people in that way. So that's all I have for this reading, and I'm going to figure out what I'm going to title it. But if you liked it, please follow my channel. I think I'm going to do these like Celtic Cross readings like once a week, and whenever I get more comfortable with them, I might start going live. So just, you know, keep an eye out for that. For now, I'm still a little bit more nervous, wading into the water a little bit and trying to figure out where exactly I fit, you know, in the world. I also do personal readings, so send me an email at writingspiritually@gmail.com and we can talk about doing a reading. They're only $20, but you can get a reading, you can get a written reading or a video reading. So yeah, have a good rest of your day and take care of yourself.